Good morning, folks. Happy Friday. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. I'm Tabitha Hassell. Very happy for it to be Friday. Very happy, of course, to have you all here. It's going to be another beautiful, beautiful day. And I'm so happy it's Friday. I don't know about you guys. By the way, today's 50th. This is my 50th podcast episode. I can't believe it. I am shocked by it. I can't believe 50 shows already, which is insane. It would have been a lot more, but for those 42 days that I was out of town, I didn't have any. I think I had one show when I was on the road, and that was about it because it was just too hard. So otherwise, I'd probably be up a little bit further. My hair is a mess today. It's going to be one of those days, but I am certainly looking forward to tomorrow. Looking forward to sleeping in. I don't know. Sometimes I have technical issues, sometimes I don't. And I know my camera's a little bit blurry today. I really have no idea why. My computer does its own thing overnight, and sometimes I turn it on and it's one way, sometimes it's a different way. We will work that out, but lots going on today. Good morning, Ryan. Good morning, Allison. Good morning, Eddie. And good morning, Dottie. First off, of course, we have Trump's golden age. I don't know if some of you saw some of Donald Trump's posts talking about the golden age. We're going to get into that. We have a special guest today, and that would be Deanna Adams, wife of Colonel Joe Adams. Unfortunately, Colonel Joe Adams could not join us this morning. He is a busy man. There is a lot going on, but I am very happy to have Deanna Adams join us here in just a couple of minutes. And outside of that, we're going to talk to Deanna. She runs the back end operations of the Washington Guard. She knows what's going on. She's going to talk to us about some different things happening at the Washington Guard. I know they have a gun show coming up this weekend, and you should probably go because you're probably going to need those weapons. There's a lot happening right now in our country, no question about it. So Deanna's going to join us and talk for a couple of minutes. And good morning, Karen. And let's see here. Deanna's awesome. Great to have her. Yes, Allison, you are right on that one. And some of the things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, first of all, if you live locally, I don't talk a lot about a lot of local news because I think most of my listeners are from all over the country. Therefore, a lot of local news doesn't pertain to them. But I want to talk about the situation here that's taking place in St. Charles. It's a Facebook group. They're not a huge group, but it's typical response to the election where they're lashing out against local businesses. And it wouldn't even be a big deal. People have the right to patronize whatever businesses they want. But it happens to be that there's a member of the St. Charles County board that is there's a board member in this Facebook group. So that's a little bit unbefitting, don't you think, of an elected board member? So we're going to get into that. I want to talk about Leticia James. Some of you guys talked about Leticia James the other day, and I wanted to make sure I talked about that because we'll get into it when we get into it. But attorney Mike Davis, one of Trump attorneys, he's got a lot to say. You guys may have heard about this already. Israel, there's a lot happening right now in Israel. I don't know if you guys know this. And if you go to my Telegram channel, the Tabs on Tap Telegram channel, I shared all of the videos of what's taking place right now in Amsterdam. Oh my gosh, it is insane. This is going to be world news. I don't know if it is yet, but if it's not, it will be world news. There was a soccer game in Amsterdam, and these two groups got into it. There's 2,700 Israelis being rescued right now in Amsterdam. I really do think they're going to have deaths, very serious injuries. We'll get into that. A lot more to talk about, but right now I want to bring in Deanna. Let me get her pulled up here because I am very happy to talk to Deanna. And let's see here. Let me grab her real quick for us. Deanna Adams of the Washington Guard, Colonel Joe Adams' wife. Good morning, Deanna. Welcome to Tabs on Tap. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. Good morning, and congratulations on the 50th show. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much. And of course, you and Colonel Joe Adams and the Washington Guard have been such a big part of the show from day one. I've always been very happy to have, you guys on the show representing, of course, the Washington Guard, because it's so incredibly important here in the state of Missouri to have a militia. It's very important to me. I think it's important to the listeners. And now, Deanna, I know first off, because I don't want to bypass this, and I know you don't have a lot of time. you guys have a gun show this weekend. Is that correct?
Well, we have a table
Be
at a
part
gun
of?
show here in Washington, and yes, I would highly recommend everyone come to the gun show. Go to a gun show near you. I do have a couple messages since I'm pinch hitting for Colonel Adams this morning. I do have a couple messages from him, and it fits right into going to the gun shows because it's all about your own preparation. And that's what the Washington Guard does, is help people get prepared. The Trump win is absolutely amazing, and it was doing the impossible. But now we have to do the impossible again, and that is actually get him through the inauguration and into office. So we are in, and this is a quote from Colonel Adams, we are in the danger zone. The left is not going to stop with their fight. You know, they hate Western civilization. They hate the family. They hate our entire society. They want a government control. And so we spend a lot of time and effort on helping people get prepared. So when you attend gun shows, you attend trainings to help your own self-defense capabilities, your own preparedness, you are just way ahead of everyone else, because we cannot just sit back and bask in the glow, even though it's been incredible. But we can't let our guard down. And so
I couldn't agree more.
specifically the danger zone is what the commander has emphasized.
Deanna, I couldn't agree more because, anyone who thinks the deep state is just going to hand over power, that easily without a fight. I mean, of course they're going to fight us every
Yeah,
step of the way. What
absolutely.
is there anything that you specifically, any specific examples? I know there's protests that are going to be taking place this weekend. We're going to be talking about that later in the show, all across the country. And I think we know that there is a propensity for violence at some of these protests. We've certainly seen it in the past. Are there any
Absolutely.
expectations? Is there anything that we need to know?
Well, yeah, a lot of things. You're right. There are protests breaking out. That's going to continue. The left has well proven their propensity for violence. And of course, a lot of the things that they're doing is to instigate violence in order to trigger civil unrest. So we have to be smart, we have to be disciplined, and we have to be prepared. Now, some of the things that are, my screen froze up. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The some of the things that are going on right now, again, it's a very fluid situation. We don't know what direction they're going to go. Kamala did do a concession speech, which, okay, that was a good step. But again, we can't get complacent, because things are going to continue down the fight from the left. But a couple things that I did want to share this morning, again, from Colonel Adams. I have to think a minute so that I don't call him Joe.
It's okay if you do. It's okay. We all know him as Joe.
Yeah. So we have a big supporter of the Washington Guard that's on the Trump transition team. And so one of the things that we can share is that he has already reached out to Mexico. Trump has already reached out to Mexico and basically laid the law down. We're stopping the fentanyl, we're stopping the caravans, and you either stop it or we're going to. So he's already sent the message to Mexico. So I think that's a huge first step. And obviously one of the big things that we need Trump to do is secure our borders and get us back into a sovereign country where just people are not just flowing over the borders like that. There's also already been chosen an attorney general, but it's not released yet. So
I think we all know who that might be. I get a lot of inside, tips here and there. And Somebody called me a couple days ago. It happened, and you know what? I'm just going to say it because I think so many people in St. Louis already know that that's going to be, of course, Missouri's Eric Schmidt. And you don't have to say anything, but Eric, if and then, no, I could be wrong. It may not be, but Eric Schmidt, his former roommate and his former best friend, is a really good friend of mine. And this guy called me a couple days ago, and probably about 3 days ago, and he's like, yeah, Eric Schmidt's going to be the new U.S. Attorney General. And now I know Eric Schmidt has already released statements on this and talked about it a little bit. And I know, Deanna, you can't confirm anything, but that's my best suspicion is that it is going to be Missouri's Eric Schmidt. And of course I've interviewed Eric Schmidt a number of times. He's a really super nice guy. And if so, that's a big win for Missouri. And if it turns out not to be him, I'm sure it will be somebody absolutely fantastic either way.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the keys is getting good people on the team. Because that's what it's going to take, and we've got to secure our country. This is my own personal list of what we have to do. We've got to deal with the border and the overall security of the country. We've got to deal with the Department of Justice, because all of law enforcement and our legal system kind of stems from that. And things like the lawfare, those things cannot happen. We've got to get something done with the media. I don't know how that gets fixed, but it is absolutely, if people don't see that by now, and I think a lot of people don't, it is absolutely a huge problem where they are propaganda machine, which is why shows like yours, Tabitha, are so critically important. And then the last thing is we've got to get control of education.
Yes. Yes, we do. I remember when Common Core started, and even back then, I wasn't even that big into politics. And I remember thinking, this is not good. We're going to this crazy age of timeouts and Common Core education, and it just destroyed our country. Yeah. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't have saved Democrats, but a lot of the Democrat votes that they probably would have gotten, I would say at least a couple 100,000 votes, they didn't get counted in states because young people don't know how to sign a legal document. They print their name. You can't validate a printed signature. But Deanna, to your point about the media, I'm going to play a video here in a little while about Elon, from Elon Musk. Elon Musk is going to be the forefront of taking care of what's taking place in the media. And so I'm going to play a little bit of a video for him. The Trump campaign, they're already eons ahead. I'm going to play several videos today, actually, of some different things Trump's going to start doing on day one. He said it's the golden age. And Deanna, I really do agree. It is going to be the golden age of America.
I think so too. We hope for the best, but we got to prepare for the worst.
We do have to prepare for the worst. And how can people reach out to you? How can they contact the Washington Guard? Because I know there's a lot of people out there who have a lot of uncertainties right now.
Yeah, you can reach us. Our website is thewashingtonguard.com, or you can email us at patriots@thewashingtonguard.com. So we'd love to hear from you. You're always welcome to come join us and check us out.
I love to hear that. And Deanna, I always tell people, if anybody has any questions, there's a lot of people obviously who listen to the show who are not in Missouri. And I always tell them to go ahead and, reach out to you all, because I know you guys have advice. You can probably refer them to somebody who is closest to them, or at least give them some ideas. And I hope somewhere down the line, you guys open some different branches, collaborate in different areas of the country. And I think that's probably something you guys are working on. But as far as the gun show, can people come up and find you all at the gun show this weekend?
Yes, it is at the Rec Center in Washington on 100. And it starts Friday evening, all day Saturday and Sunday, and we'll be there. Come talk to us. We've got great people that are going to be there and all kinds of information. So come join us.
And people need to, because I just was telling my son early this morning, I ran into him down in the hallway, and I was explaining to him that, start getting your weapons out, start getting things ready, because I think things are going to be getting a little crazy, I think, coming up. And I think we all need to be prepared, have our heads on a swivel, and really, more than anything, be alert and pay attention. Be alert
Yes.
and pay attention.
Yep.
And Deanna, I know you have to run. I hate it because I would love to talk to you so much more. Is there any last statements you have? Anything you want to add?
Well, I'm just going to echo what you just said, Tabitha. Celebrate, but be aware of your surroundings. You just don't know what's going on. So pay attention.
Absolutely. Well, Deanna Adams, I appreciate you joining us. I'm so happy to have you and see your beautiful face this morning. First
Thanks,
thing that
Tabitha.
always brightens my day. Please tell Colonel Joe Adams hello for us.
I
And we
will.
appreciate everything you and the Washington Guard are doing for us here in the United States. You guys are amazing.
Thanks, Tabitha. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Deanna. I will look forward to talking to you both soon. I hope you have a really good
Okay.
weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Thank
See y'all.
you.
Bye.
Please be sure reach out to Deanna, reach out to Colonel Joe Adams at the Washington Guard. You can do that at patriots at thewashingtonguard.com. So happy to have Deanna in with us this morning. She's such a sweetheart and such a beautiful person, and she is such a backbone there at the Washington Guard. So I was more than happy to have her on this morning. And of course, we always miss hearing from Colonel Joe Adams because also another bright spot in the show. People send me so many messages about the Washington Guard, and every time Colonel Joe Adams is on, I'm always getting all these messages like, what a great guest, and he's got so many great things to say, and we really look forward to the information that he provides and that Deanna provides, and there are a lot of protests taking place this weekend. There are a lot of protests taking place, and as Deanna stated, and the message from Colonel Joe Adams, the deep state, they're not going to give up. How could anybody think? And I know somebody put a comment on my Facebook page. They're like, "You're always waiting for the shoe to drop." I'm always waiting for the shoe to drop because there are so many shoes in line to drop. And I don't. It's not about negativity. I'm not negative about it. I know in the end we will prevail. However, it might be a long road. I don't think any of us, I gave myself my day of victory and I didn't say anything at all about what's coming next. And because I don't think we can do that. Good morning, Phyllis. Yes, Allison, have your go bag ready. Good morning, Joe. I really do. I really do think it's coming. I don't know what's coming. I don't know. I haven't heard, a lot of inside source on what's getting ready to happen, but I do think that we, of all people, we're pretty awake. We're pretty aware of what's happening in this country. And I think that most of us do understand how powerful the deep state is. Look at regimes in other countries. I always try to say, we here in the United States don't think that we are above what you see taking place in other countries. We are not above that. We live in this fantasy that we're America, and it's not the same here. That politics aren't the same. That we have free and fair elections, and that our country supports us and they want us to prosper and do well. But that's not the case, unfortunately. We are exactly like every country, and we also have a ruling party in this country, and we refer to them as the deep state, but we absolutely do have a regime, and that regime has been in power for many decades. Yes, they changed the face. That's to make us think that we live in this freedom of illusion of freedom, but that freedom is not really there. It really is an illusion and a facade. And these people have controlled our country for a very long time now, and they're not going to give up that power. They're not going to give it up easily. And quite honestly, it doesn't matter what the people want. They don't care what the people want because none of this is about us. It's like Truman's World, the movie Truman's World. We all get up in the morning and we all get out and we go to our jobs and we talk to people along the way. We have families and friends, and we're going to sporting games, and we're going shopping, and we're living our own little lives. But in the grand scheme of things, none of that matters. There's such a bigger picture that's going on, and we're kind of living in this little dome of what we feel is security, but it's really not there. It's just an illusion. And the fact is the government needs us. They need us to go to work. They want you to think that, oh, I'm making all this money, but they're taking 75 cents of every dollar you make And that's going into their pockets. I mean, yeah, they say, oh, taxes, we're sending billions of dollars in aid to all of these countries. We're sending money to Ukraine. We're sending money to Hamas. We're sending money to all of these different countries. But guess what? A big portion of that money is a kickback that goes back into their own pockets. So every day when you get up and you go to work, you get up, you go to work, and your money is to support the regime, to basically put money in the pocket of the deep state. And they're not going to give that up. They're not going to give that up. So don't think it's going to happen. It's not. They're not going to give it up that easily. We will prevail in the end, no question about it. But it's not going to be the easy ride that we feel like it is. And it's kind of funny because I see things like all falling into place. Even this morning when I was reading some statements from different military members in the country and talking about, Trump's orders and all of these different things, I'm thinking, wait a minute, things are not going to fall into place that easily. That's not going to happen. And so when they're like, oh, yeah, we're ready for Trump to take power and this, and that, I'm like, no, 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 no. Don't even try to fool us, because we know it's not going to be that simple, because we are everything they hate. But part of the reason why this happened is the deep state, they just got a little bit, they went a little bit too far, because had we, the American people, been able to continue on in our little daily lives, even though it's all a facade, if you're happy, then you don't have anything to complain about, right? If you're happy, if you are living well, then you're going to keep your mouth closed, right? Because you don't have anything to complain about. Your life is good. You're getting by. You can go out and you can work, you can afford a beautiful home, you can provide for your family, you can take a vacation. Life is good. It doesn't matter what the deep state does if we're going about our lives and we're happy and prospering, right? But see, they took that away from us. They took away the happy and the prosper, and they made things so difficult for us that we woke up and we thought, wait a minute, I'm getting up in the morning and I'm going to work. I'm working all day long, and you're just taking all of my money back. I'm paying you, my company's paying you these payroll taxes, which of course they take out on me. You're taxing my pensions, you're taxing my investments. I'm paying property tax, personal property tax in some areas, real estate tax. I'm paying tax when I go buy groceries. I'm paying taxes on my utility bills, and then eventually we wake up and we're like, well, wait a minute here. I can barely get by. Then they start reports raising the prices of groceries and gasoline, where there's a lot of people who can't even work now because they can't afford to pay the gas to get to work. We have more people than ever living on state aid, but they continue to even cut those benefits, for people. It's if they would have just left things alone, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. People would have been happy to sleep through the facade and just carry on with their daily lives, but people are not getting by. Simple as that. Good morning, Phyllis. Good morning, Cindy. Yes, happy Friday. And let's see here. Allison, if something happens, you may not be able to drive home. Have a supply to get you home. I think about that all the time, Allison, because I'm always thinking if something is going to happen, am I going to be home? And am I going to be out on the streets? Am I going to be out shopping at the store? You know what? I live in Illinois now, central Illinois. What if I were in Missouri? And because I work in Missouri still. And of course, and then I can't get back across the bridge. There's so many things that come into play when it's about preparing. You really just don't know what's going to happen. And I don't know what's going to happen with these protests. I always, like Deanna said, try to think the best. I do think that the majority of people who go out and protest, they're not out for violence, but we know violence typically does occur. We get people that get involved, like the Communist Party, and they're real, and their goal is to create chaos, and they go out in the streets just like they did when the riots were happening here in the St. Louis area or in Minneapolis. They go out and they throw the first brick, the first stone. They attack police first, and then they move to the background and let everyone else uh, stuck in the middle of the chaos. And of course, then you get the group mob mentality. And that's what happens at a lot of these protests. Don't get stuck in one of these protests. If you hear that there are protests taking place in your area, please stay home. Don't take your chances, because when these people go out and they get all worked up in a mob, And then let's just say you're not even in the protest area. You might be standing in your front yard, half of a miles away. But these people are leaving and they're all worked up. They see you. Maybe you have a Trump sign outside. Maybe you just look like a Trump supporter. Who knows? And the next thing you know, you're being attacked. So just don't. If you hear there's protests taking place in your area, just don't go. Stay out of their way because it is not worth getting caught up in the violence. Phyllis says they go to Washington and become millionaires. Yeah, they do, don't they? They do. And it's hard for me. It's so hard for me because there are so many politicians. I'm not naming any names because I'm not going to get myself stuck in that trap today. I've done enough of that in the past. I've been very outspoken against politicians, and that's going to continue. And I see people who are establishment every day coming rising in the ranks. And Trump, I think Trump has every good idea, as far as the golden age and what we're going to see in the next 4 years. But I'm already hearing rumors of some of the people that are joining his administration that are absolutely establishment candidates. I don't think he knows this. And it was explained to me at one point that he's allowed the RNC to advise him, that some of these people are good people because the RNC, I don't like the RNC, quite honestly. I don't like the RNC. The RNC is all about the establishment. They don't like Trump. They're putting on a good show, but the RNC has never liked Trump. They didn't want him to run in 2016. They didn't want him to run in 2020, but they felt like they had no choice because it was the only option they might have to win because they know us, the people, we're tired of the establishment, but they are still the establishment. The RNC is still the establishment. The people they bring into the RNC are still establishment folks. And so please, as much as we love and trust Donald Trump, when you see these different people being added to his administration who are establishment candidates, please keep that in mind because we have to watch them. We have to keep an eye on these people, whether Trump trusts them or not. We have to do our due diligence. And I already see some of these names being thrown around, and it worries me because I'm thinking, okay, the establishment, they want to get back into the game in 2028. I am really hoping in 2028 that JD Vance runs for president. I don't know if that's going to happen because I see so many different names getting thrown into the mix, but I really hope he does. I hope that some of these other names I'm hearing are not the people who are going to be running in 2028. I see people inching closer, closer and closer, but man, they are not the people for us. You guys might not understand what I'm talking about. Some of you might. I'm not going to say it right now. We'll talk about it when it comes time. But something else though that I want to throw into the mix today, and Barron Trump has largely been completely out of the picture, right? Barron Trump, he's not typically at the events. He's typically at home. Trump will often say, well, Barron's not here. He's at home. He's at school. And we don't see him. He walks through, we'll see him, and he's very poised, and he doesn't say anything. But I'm telling you what, there's something they've been hiding from us. And I feel like it's a good thing because I want to bring this up because 2028 is right around the corner. I think that they've been grooming Barron all along to be a political leader. I really do. I think there will be a day that Barron Trump absolutely does run for president. I think he is going to walk in the footsteps of his father. I'm going to show you this video of Barron Trump here. It's a very short clip, so I hope you pay attention. I really do think that Barron Trump is absolutely being groomed to be a politician. And this is the first time I've seen him out of his shell. And as soon as I saw it, you'll see it too. You'll be like, uh-huh, now I get it. Now I get it. Take a look at this. That's a little Donald Trump right there, isn't it? That is a little Donald Trump right there. Barron Trump. You could see it. Couldn't you see it? I saw it. I'm sure you guys saw it too. I think there's so much going on here. Nothing nefarious, of course, but I do think that they have hidden Trump from the public exactly for these reasons. I think that They are going to make sure that he has made the right choices and will continue to make the right choices so that there's nothing that impedes him along the way. I see it. I hope you guys see it too. And we're going to talk about that more over the next 4 years. Whether I'll be here with the podcast, who knows what the future holds for any of us. But we will definitely be talking about Barron Trump for many, many years into the future. And I think your children or your grandchildren are going to be looking someday at Barron Trump like we see Trump right now, Donald Trump right now. And Allison said he's an amazing young man. Phyllis, yes, he is. Cindy, I agree. He will grow up to be a leader. No question about that. Allison says, I believe he has chosen his campaign manager, Miss Wiles, as his chief of staff. I've heard that too, Allison, but I've also heard that she doesn't necessarily want the position. So we'll see how that plays out. And Karen agrees, Barron Trump all the way, yes. And because I've heard that his campaign manager, Wiles, that she does not like public speaking. She does not like to be in the forefront. So I don't know, chief of staff, they're not too much in the forefront. So that might be a good position for her. But we're certainly going to see him, Donald Trump, begin to choose his members. We talked about Deanna. I know Deanna can't say anything because she has sources that have told her different things. So I don't know if she was referring to Missouri's Eric Schmitt as the new attorney general. But I've heard from my own sources, as I said, a good friend of mine, again, I'll repeat it for anybody that didn't hear it, but a good friend of mine used to be Eric Schmitt's roommate. And they were childhood best friends. They grew up together. In this guy and I talk, he's somebody involved in the hockey community, and he and I talk pretty often. And we talked the other day. He's also a huge Trump supporter. And he told me, he's like, yeah, Eric Schmitt's going to be the next attorney general. And I'm not surprised by that at all, because obviously Eric Schmitt here, in Missouri, our attorney general, which he was a fantastic attorney general in Missouri, no question about it. I think he'll be a fantastic attorney general for the United States. I really do. I think he will do a phenomenal job. And so I think that's a positive. We're going in a positive direction there if that's the case. I think he'll do a really great job. And Allison, I know who will be press secretary. Who will be press secretary? I don't know. I don't know if Trump will ever find another Healey. And Healey kind of, I'm not going to try to say her last name because I can't say it, but Healey kind of turned against Trump a little bit, and after her position, after his term ended. And so it won't be her. I don't know who it will be. I really have no idea. But whoever it will be such a refreshing break from what we have right now. No, no doubt about that. I don't even know. If I had to guess, I seriously don't even know. I would love to find out though. And I think that person will be phenomenal. I think he's going to put a really good team together. Mandy says Vivek would be great. Yes. Yes, he would. And I keep thinking females, but it could absolutely be a man. No question about it. And we'll soon find out. That I know. We'll soon find out. But again, like, we've got so much ahead of us. I already talked about the deep state and how they're not going to give up power easily. There's so much going on. There's different people coming out around the country who are saying, hey, we don't care that Trump is going to be the president. We are never going to comply. Leticia James is one of those people. And did you guys hear the statement from Mike Davis, one of Trump's attorneys? This is going to blow your mind. One of you actually brought up Leticia James. I wasn't even aware of the controversy that was taking place. Leticia James, of course, in New York. She's the Attorney General of New York State. And man, she's another dangerous person. There's a lot of dangerous people out there we have to worry about. I'm gonna start from the beginning, and I'm gonna show you the video of Leticia James and what irked Trump's attorney to this degree. And then I'm going to show you the statement that was made by Trump's attorney. He was on a podcast, and it blew my mind. I think it's going to blow your mind too, because I'm thinking, is this man really saying what I just heard him say? Is this even possible? I mean, because I'm not even going to say I agree with this statement, quite honestly, but we're going to play it out. Let's see. Let's hear from Leticia James first.
So here we are. We've studied their platforms. We've identified certain possibilities, fact patterns. We've created contingency plans. So no matter what the next administration throws at us, we're ready. We're ready to respond to their attacks. We're ready to respond to any attempts to cut or eliminate any funding to the great state of New York, as the governor outlined. So despite what has happened on the national stage, we will continue to stand tall in the face of injustice, revenge, or retribution. We will continue to protect and our most vulnerable and marginalized amongst us, because it is my sworn duty and responsibility to lead that fight, working with the governor of this great state, Kathy Hochul. This is not the time to be fearful, New York, but faithful and steadfast, knowing that I, as the Attorney General, along with my entire team, we are guardians of the law, and we are prepared, my friends, to fight back.
Okay, so that was Leticia James. Now, I'm going to show you the video of Trump's attorney. He's in the middle of a podcast, and this is his rebuttal to Leticia James. Hold on, if you haven't heard this yet, you're going to be so shocked by this and how straightforward that he is.
Let me just say this to Big Tish James, the New York Attorney General. I dare you to try to continue your lawfare against President Trump in his second term, because listen here, sweetheart, we're not messing around this time, and we will put your fat ass in prison for conspiracy against rights, and I promise you that. So think long and hard before you want to violate President Trump's constitutional rights or any other American's constitutional rights. It's not going to happen again.
We've been warning people on the show, Mike, this isn't the same Trump administration. Stop messing around. Don't rig elections. Don't illegally vote. Don't try the funny business, because we know the team this time and they are not.
Are you surprised by that statement? And he's right. We have to nip this in the bud before it even gets started. Should he have referred and called her what he did? In my opinion, no. You know, the last thing we need is to give Democrats more ammunition against us. I wish he hadn't said what he said in the way that he said it, but I do think that he should have been straightforward as he was, and straightforward. I just wish he would have maybe termed things a little bit differently. We all want to reach out and fight and tell the people who hate us what we think, but I think we have to be a little bit more diplomatic. So I will be very curious what people think or start saying about that. And Leticia James is a cancer of New York, quite honestly. And you know, some of these states, they're going to lose. Democrats are going to lose some of these states. New York, I really thought New York was kind of a toss-up. I saw it possibly turning red. I really did. And if you saw some of the video on election day of Times Square, there were MAGA hats everywhere. There were so many Trump supporters that came into Times Square to watch the election results on the big screen. And I think that some of these Democrat leaders need to pull their head out of the sand and realize that they are losing their base. They're losing their base. I don't understand why they think that they can do these things. And you know, there's Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey. Are you guys familiar with her? She also stated, she gave a news interview, and she said, we will not comply. When Donald Trump expects us, the Massachusetts, police departments, local police departments, or state police, we are not going to assist the Trump administration in deporting illegals. We're not going to do it. As a matter of fact, she said she would pull out every tool she has to make sure that deportations do not happen. Well, you know what? State of Massachusetts, one of these days, you're probably going to turn red also because of your ridiculous, crazy Democratic policies. And, and speaking of Pennsylvania, do you know that 82% of Philadelphia counties went to Trump. Even the Democrat counties, 82%. And that is why Trump ended up winning Pennsylvania. You know, I can't show it here because as you guys probably already know, my podcast doesn't do very well when it comes to these maps. But you know, look, California. Have you guys seen the map of California? California here. Think about this. In California, it was so close. I know they called California for Harris even before the first ballot was in. And of course, right now California is no question blue. We can't do anything about that. That's going to change. That is going to change. If we're still here, if I'm still talking, if we're still doing a podcast or whatever my future holds for me in a couple of years, you're going to see California turn red if they continue their policies. Think about this. Trump, he got 40% of the vote in California. That's a really big deal. And unfortunately, California is one of those states where they kept Robert Kennedy Jr. on the ballot. They would not let him withdraw from the ballot, which is crazy to me. If they allowed Biden to withdraw, they should have allowed RFK Jr. to withdraw, but they didn't. So he ended up getting 109,000 votes, which people should know. Don't vote for him. He obviously left the party for a reason. And Donald Trump, he ended up getting 4 million votes in California, 40% of the vote. Harris, she got 5,749,000 votes. She got 57.3% of the vote. But here's where the win is that several California counties for the first time turned red. And this does not surprise me. I've spent a lot of time in California, and I know I belong to still some Republican groups and conservative groups in California. And there's a lot of us there. Don't think there are not. These are the counties in California that flipped and turned red. And that would be San Bernardino, Orange County, no surprise there, Riverside, Fresno, Merced, Stanislaus, San Joaquin, Inyo, Nevada, and Butte counties. They were all blue in 2020, all flipped to red in this election in 2024. Don't think that as time moves on that we're not going to turn every state red. And in this golden age that Trump is calling it, I think we're going to win a lot of people over. I really do. Maybe not the women in the Democrat Party who are pro-abortion, but I think we're going to win everyone else over. I think there are some people, unfortunately, there's just nothing we can do to please. And of course, there's a lot of people out there, again, who just simply do not like Trump. There's nothing we're going to be able to do, no matter what, to get them to like Donald Trump as their president. And I completely understand the rationale of those people. For me, it was hard thinking that I would have to watch a public address with Kamala Harris cackling and carrying on. I kept telling myself, like, how am I going to live through the next 4 years with her, speaking to us? I'm like, I'll never be able to watch another State of the Union or another public address. At least Obama, who I also did not support, but Obama was a smooth talker. He's a nice looking guy, smooth talker. I didn't have any problem watching his state of address, but man, Harris, I kept thinking, how am I ever going to get through this? So I totally understand not being able to relate to a certain candidate. Therefore, they're never going to win you over. But some of these people have lost their minds. They have lost their minds. Have you guys heard about the new feminist movement? It is absolutely insane. I'm going to read it to you, then I'm going to show you a video. This new feminist movement is probably one of the craziest things maybe I've ever heard. And it absolutely makes no sense to me whatsoever. But I'll tell you what, good for us, because it's good for us. So it's there's a group of women. It started in North Korea or I'm sorry, South Korea. Forget North Korea. It started in South Korea. It's a feminist movement. And these women have said that because of Donald Trump winning and because of his stance on abortion, that these women are no longer going to have relationships with men. For the entire 4 years that Trump is in office, they are going to have no relationships with men. They are not going to have intimate relationships. They're not going to have dates. They're going to completely abstain. And then the women who are in relationships, they are going to make sure they use birth control. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what in the world is wrong with these people? Good. That's exactly what we want you to do. Abstinence and birth control. Good for you. You know, if you would have used abstinence and birth control from day one, guess what? We wouldn't be in this position right now. So if these women decide to stick to this plan, this 4B plan, which is 4 years, you know, banning, of course, relationships with men, if they stick to this plan, we're going to see our abortion rates plummet. It will no longer be an issue. It will plummet. These women have lost their minds, have lost their minds. That's like saying, you know, it's like giving us a gift. Please abstain, use birth control. Good for us, good for our country. Thank you. You should have done it a long time ago. So listen to this video. This is one of the 4B feminists. I have so many videos. I'm only going to show you this one because the other ones will literally make you lose your mind.
I'm gonna be honest, I was very blindsided by the results this morning. I've decided that cigarettes don't count today, and I honestly might go get a tattoo. But I also have decided that for the next 4 years, I am going to abstain from schmex with men. And funny enough, I actually just broke up with my boyfriend a handful of days before the election, and it had nothing to do with the anticipation of Donald Trump winning this election. It had everything to do with problems within our relationship and massive differences between who we were as people, which was unfortunate and sad. I wish him well, though. But yeah, as a woman, my bodily autonomy matters, and this is my way to exercise sovereignty over that. So I highly encourage any other women that are single and care about progressing women's rights and still fighting for our bodily autonomy, to do the same. Delete your dating apps, because we can come together in community, and if you need somebody to cuddle or hold your hand or give you a kiss, I bet you one of your girlfriends would do it, okay? And you don't even have to really be gay, okay? It's okay to have a lot of platonic love for the next 4 years. I think we can look to South Korea and the 4B movement as a point of inspiration.
These people have lost their minds. So you're going to protest Trump, who they think, which is wrong anyway, they think Trump wants to ban abortion, but that's not the case. He wants the states to decide, as we talked about yesterday. Each state can make their own rules based on what their people want. You know, here in Missouri, we just had the what was it, the Amendment 3 or something along those lines, that I believe there's going to be a lot of lawsuits over on both sides. And so Planned Parenthood, I know, is suing the state of Missouri because, gosh, they want abortions so bad. And these women, it's the craziest thing I've ever heard. It is the craziest thing I've ever heard. I am going to protest Trump by not having relationships during his term, and therefore I will not need to have an abortion. Okay, good. Thank you. That's all we wanted to hear. Thank you. So they're just falling right into our hands there. Makes no sense at all. It's like, what are they teaching in schools these days is what I would like to know. How is it? Most of the women that I saw the videos of, they're in their 20s and 30s. What is happening in schools these days to teach these women this? And to each their own. I don't want to blast anyone, but I personally know people. And Tammy, I saw your comment about not having any family members you can talk to about it. You know, I have a lot of friends and family, and I've said this many times, who are, either some are very liberal, some just don't care about politics, some despise me right now because of my political thoughts. But it is very difficult to talk to people about these things because they don't understand. They'll never get where we're coming from. We'll never understand where they're coming from. And I feel like here in America, we just have to let people be. If this is how they feel, if you know people like this, then let them be. If they don't want to have relationships with men for 4 years, good for them. Less abortions to take place, less health care that they need, I guess. So that's fine. But it's like it's so hard because there are so many people I know where I would like to say this, but I'm just like, I just got to let it go. Where I draw that line is that I've had a lot of people on my personal Facebook page when I'm scrolling through, and they'll make comments to me that, well, since you voted for the fascist, just delete me. And I say, okay, delete. If you tell me to delete you because of who I voted for, then guess what? I'm going to delete you. I went through my Facebook page yesterday. I actually deleted a lot of people. Not because I don't agree with their views. I think every American has the right to their own views, to each your own. I'm a very socially, I think a socially liberal person to some degree anyway. I'm right down the middle. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I am right down the middle. And I think Trump is going to be the best leadership for us going forward. And I do think we need to get rid of these policies on the far, far left. Absolutely. And if you hate me because that's how I feel, then I'm going to take you off of my social media if you feel that way about me. Now, if you're just stating your opinion about things in general, then that's fine. That's your right to do. But when it becomes personal, then guess what? Then we're gonna break that Facebook friendship, because most people I don't actually know anyway on my Facebook page, and especially people who have those opinions. And I'm sure this is happening to a lot of you guys also. I have to draw the line though at some of the things I'm seeing some people post, because I'm seeing women post, and these are not women I know. I'm seeing women make these posts that, oh my God, I can't believe my daughter's going to have to grow up in this environment where the government's telling her what to do with her body. And these are not people talking about medical situations where if you have a miscarriage, there is a situation, there's no question about it, where if a woman has a miscarriage and there's a procedure called a DNC. If you have a miscarriage, a doctor has to go in, and I'm not going to get graphic with what they have to do. They basically have to scrape out your uterus to get rid of the fetal material. But the medical term is still abortion for that, even though you had a miscarriage and you're forced to get this DNC. And there are certain people who are upset about no abortion rules because it causes a lot of red tape and bureaucracy when it comes to a miscarriage. And I know a lot of people heard about, there was a very big case where a young woman died because all of the red tape, and she had a miscarriage. She needed to get a DNC, but because it's technically called an abortion, then her doctor asked for a second scan in the emergency room. She was in the emergency room. They sent her home, then she came back, and the doctor requested a second scan because they wanted to make sure that they did not see a fetal heartbeat. They didn't see it in the first scan. He waited and delayed and had a second scan because according to the law in that area, they had to make sure that there was no heartbeat because they couldn't perform a procedure if there was a heartbeat. Now, that part makes sense to me. It should not be termed abortion, but because it is, they had to run through all these extra hoops. And therefore, this woman, she contracted a very bad infection, which can happen if you have a miscarriage and it's not treated right away. And she died. She passed away. And of course, that's horrific, for her and her family. And we need to change the law to make sure that a miscarriage is not termed an abortion. There are a lot of things we can do to fix that situation. But a lot of the women that I'm seeing these comments, they're not talking about a medical situation. They are talking about a situation in which they just are having unprotected sex and they get pregnant and they go and get an abortion. And I've said this many times before. I've done so many studies on abortion rates, and a lot of these are the same women. And that is where my problem comes in when it comes to abortion. Abortion should not be used in place of birth control. But that's exactly what some women do. Instead of using birth control, they just say, oh, well, if I get pregnant, I'll go get an abortion. It's just so easy. It's so easy for people to do. And it's upsetting to me when I see people post online that I'm so worried about my daughter. As a matter of fact, Christina Applegate was a celebrity that posted this message, but I know people who have also posted these messages, and not personally, people I know personally, just average people. And they're saying, I'm so worried about my daughter. My daughter's going to grow up in a society where she can't make decisions for her own body. If she has an accidental pregnancy, there's nothing she can do to go and take care of this. And that's not true, by the way, because Trump is not banning abortion. So that's a big deal. It's going to continue on. Mary said college kids have to have a day after election to recover. Very true. And I hope that there's a lot of people checking on some of these college kids. I've seen these videos, they go back and forth. If you ever want to see some of the videos I see, if you go to Telegram and you go to the Tabs on Tap account on Telegram, I post a lot of videos there. There's so many things that I can't show here on the show, or my show will get deleted. I can't post them to Facebook or YouTube or anywhere else because they'll get deleted. Telegram is very open and free. You can share anything there you want, regardless of the content. And so I do share a lot of videos there. But I've seen a lot of videos of kids in colleges who absolutely went nuts. They were so ecstatic and happy when they heard that Donald Trump was elected. I saw videos of kids running through the hallways, cheering, carrying their American flags, and people running out into the, sports complexes at their local colleges, universities, and coming out of their dorm rooms, cheering and shooting off fireworks and carrying their American flags. It's not all colleges. It's not all college students who are reacting the way that we are seeing some people react. And there are kids who said they're not going back to school, maybe forever, as long as Trump is president. I have heard students saying they will never go back to school, that they're going to act in defiance. That just hurts them. It's very sad that I've seen a lot of teachers and a lot of college professors make some very profound anti-Trump statements. And that really bothers me, because as a teacher or a professor, in my opinion, you need to keep politics out of the schools. That should not be part of your classroom, should not be part of your lesson, your personal feelings about politics. I mean, when I was a kid, I don't know about you guys, when I was a kid, our teachers didn't talk about their personal lives. I had no idea if they were gay or married or religious or atheists or, Republicans or Democrats or independents. I didn't have the faintest clue. And nothing they did or said ever gave me any indication at all what their personal lives were like. And that's how it should be. That is absolutely how it should be. Their personal lives should not influence the students they teach. And some of these comments I'm seeing, and right here in St. Louis, there was a Lindenwood professor who was just going off on social media. And this guy claims to be a Christian. He claims to, honor God and honor our country, and talks about freedom and all these things, but he hates Trump and he hates Trump supporters. It's so strange. How can you be Christian and hate people because of who they voted for? Remember in 2020 when Biden won? I was very disappointed. You guys probably were too. But I blamed the government. I blamed the DNC. In some ways, I blamed the RNC. But I absolutely did not blame the people around me. I was never upset with the people. We have the right to vote for whoever we want to vote for. And that brings me back to this situation in St. Charles County. If you guys are familiar with this group, it's called Missouri Citizens for Safe Communities in St. Charles, Missouri. And some of you probably have seen this already online. Some of you maybe have not. It's just a local story. And what's so bad about this is that these people run this site. Again, it's called Missouri Citizens for Safe Communities. It's a small group, nothing successful whatsoever. It's got 1,500 members. It's hardly even worth mentioning, quite honestly. But it just represents other things that are happening across the country, not just in St. Charles. And so their website, it's www.mocsc.org. And these people have created a list of businesses in the St. Charles area, I think specifically Wentzville. And they're saying, well, if you support these businesses, then you're supporting Donald Trump. So they collected a list of businesses that they feel supported Donald Trump or that are conservative. And they posted all of these businesses on their Facebook group. And they're telling their members Again, it's only 1,500 members, so it's not a big deal. But they're telling their members, hey, do not patronize these businesses because they supported Trump. Where we come into the problem is that a couple of these members and a couple of these people who are involved in these postings, they're on the board. I think so. I think one of them's on the school board, from what I understand. And I mean, what are we doing? You can't do that. Please don't do that. And it's happening all across the country. I just saw a letter the other day that somebody sent to me. I saw it posted on Facebook, and it was a letter, somebody in a community. There was a person who is not someone I know, but it's somebody who one of my Facebook friends knows. And this person had a Trump sign out in their front yard. So somebody in their community wrote them the most awful letter, sending them this letter that we're not going to include you with anything. We don't like you. You've shown us your true colors. And then signed at the very bottom, I'm very disappointed in you. All because this person had a Trump sign out in their yard. And so therefore they know that this person supported Donald Trump. All of a sudden, the neighborhood is writing letters and sending them to people talking about how they're fascists and bigots and misogynist. What in the world? Where do people get the nerve to do this? Where? I don't understand it. If you guys saw my yard right now, I have a giant Trump banner. I have a fence that goes across the front, and I can see it from where I'm standing. And I have a giant Trump banner. I have at least 4 signs outside. And I'll tell you what, if somebody in my community sends me a letter that tells me that I'm this horrible person because I exercised my freedom of being American by voting for the candidate that most represents me, I'm going to go and I'm going to try my best to find out who sent that letter to me. So I don't understand. People have lost their minds. In 2020, when Biden won, never would I have ever even considered, ever coming after someone for their vote. So I thought that was absolutely crazy. Speaking of Biden, I'm sure you guys probably saw he gave his speech yesterday, which I thought was a little interesting. He seemed a little happier than I would have thought he should have seemed. He had a little chipper glare in his eye. You guys, I'm sure you know, there was probably nothing better for Joe Biden to stand up on that podium and say, you know what? Harris didn't win. Because you guys know as much as I know that Biden thought he was the one, that he would have won. There's no question that he thinks that if he were in that position, if they wouldn't have kicked him out, that he would have won against Donald Trump. So it's probably the happiest I've ever seen him, if it was even him. I'm not even going to get into that today. If it was even him. I don't know if I've ever seen Biden speak so clearly and so happily this entire 3+ years, until yesterday. So I think there's a lot to be said about that. A lot to be said. It's something I want to get into because I want to make sure that I don't skip over it. There's so much to talk about every day. There's going to be so much talk about going forward. Of course, I'm going to read some statements here shortly. Putin has weighed in on the Trump presidency. We have NATO who has weighed in, of course, the European Union. We have Germany heading to elections. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of foreign things going on that we definitely need to touch base on. But something I saw that last night that was extremely disturbing, and that was happening over in the Netherlands in Amsterdam. There was a situation where we had the 2 teams playing against each other. It was the Maccabi Tel Aviv game versus the Amsterdam Ajax. And I believe it was soccer. Of course, they call it football. And there were these football fans, Israelis, who were there in town. 2,700, in fact, Israeli fans that were in this area. And there was a lot of videos that I saw. There's no question the Israelis antagonized and ended up getting themselves in over their heads. But prior to the game, they did show some Israelis going through the city of Amsterdam, taking down Palestinian flags. Now, what really kind of riled things up is during the game, the Israeli students were yelling out different statements towards Arabs, talking about the war and different things like that. And then, of course, they had a moment of silence during the game in which they honored the 200 that recently perished in local flooding. Well, During that time, the Israeli fans were shooting off fireworks. They were not being quiet. They did not honor the moment of silence. They were yelling and chanting, anti-Palestinian statements. And then as soon as the game ended, it was just absolute chaos. And I posted these videos onto my Tabs on Tap Telegram account. Again, I cannot post them here. Some of them were very, very graphic. And despite the fact that these Israeli fans were completely out of control, they said and did things they absolutely should not have done. They did not deserve the onslaught that they got afterwards. And this is definitely going to end up being a huge news story at some point once more people become aware of it. And then after the game ended, when everyone went back out into the street, everybody's, even in a peaceful game, things get a little crazy, right? In this case, because of what took place, as soon as the Israeli fans left, these people attacked them, just residents of Amsterdam attacked these people. And it was absolutely horrific. It was horrific. And so now the IDF is scrambling. They've got to rescue 2,700 Israelis out of Amsterdam, 2,700. And I have no doubt after seeing these videos that some of these these are young Israelis, mostly men. I have no doubt that deaths have occurred, very serious injuries. I watched videos of vehicles driving through the streets, running Israelis over in the streets. It is unbelievable. It's a huge crisis. I couldn't even believe I was seeing these things with my own eyes. We have in Amsterdam, I always thought as the, people of the Netherlands to be fairly peaceful. But of course, there are also a lot of Palestinians who are in this region. And I am telling you, they were going after the Israelis. I saw videos of Israelis being beaten, probably some of them beaten to death, I'm assuming, some very serious injuries. Again, I saw cars driving through the streets, Palestinians driving cars, driving vehicles through the streets of Amsterdam, looking for Israelis and flooring it and running these people over. This is just astronomical, in my opinion. My heart hurts for everything that's taking place over there, and I hope the IDF has already gotten the majority of these people out. I think there's a lot of them they'll probably not even find, and I can't even imagine the injuries and things that are going to take place. It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad. And so if you guys don't know, I'm having some technical issues. I think everything's fine. I think you can hear me, and I think everything's going good. But I am having some little technical things going on. Probably somebody complaining about the podcast. And so if I seem a little bit distracted, it's because there's a little bleep when something goes on, whether it's somebody reporting the podcast, or whether it's a social media platform checking the podcast to see if I'm saying things I shouldn't say, showing things I shouldn't show. It bleeps. And on my end, I can see it. And it drives me crazy. And I cannot see any of your comments when all of that's going on. So if there is anybody talking, I apologize. I can't see it. And so that's something I wanted to get into. Something else I wanted to talk about a little bit is some of these statements I'm seeing, because, anything that's happening, overseas absolutely affects us. Any opinions that world leaders have of our incoming president, our current president, absolutely does affect everything to do with our foreign policy, as I'm sure all of you know. And Putin, of course, Russia is a big part of foreign policy right now with the war that's taking place between Russia and Ukraine. We have Germany elections coming up, which will really shape our future as well as being part of NATO, as long as we are part of NATO. And we all know, I think, how, of course, Donald Trump feels about NATO. And there's a lot. Then after that, I want to talk about some of Trump's policies. He's been pretty clear about some of the things he's going to tackle from day one. And so we're going to get into that as well. So here's something that a statement from Putin. He actually made several statements, and I kind of highlighted the ones that I thought were most important. He said the policies of Western elites, which is a very limited club, are not aimed forward. They are aimed backward towards preserving something that's already exists. And of course, that's in his words. And I think that, like I said yesterday, things are going to change. We, the United States under Donald Trump, our relationship with NATO and with the UN is going to drastically change. The deep state, think about that. When the deep state is out of the picture, what do we have left? Do we even belong to NATO? Do we even care about NATO? Do we care about the G7? Do we even want to be part of the G7? That's something we all have to start thinking about. Is there such a huge power shift? When you think about terms, like I said in the beginning of the show, of the deep state, the Democrats being part of a regime versus a political party, then you see that it's a much bigger picture. When the regime is pushed to the side, they're no longer in control, then we really have the ability to start all over again. And we can start all over again with policy. We can change our relationships with different foreign leaders. And I'm telling you, Russia is not our enemy. They are absolutely not our enemy. Our enemy is from within. That's who our enemy is. It's from within. It is not these outside people. And I think we're going to hear more from Putin as things go along. Here's the other statement he made, because a lot of people were saying, well, he's never going to congratulate Donald Trump. And that's not true. He actually was one of the first people to reach out. This is one of his early statements. He said, congratulations to Trump on his reelection as president of the United States. I don't think it's shameful to call Trump, and I'm ready to communicate with him. His behavior during the assassination attempt impressed me. He turned out to be a courageous man. And I don't think that there's any, of course, truth to any collusion, but I do think that we're going to improve our relationships with so many world leaders, BRICS leaders, not European leaders. As a matter of fact, European leaders they met in Budapest yesterday, and they're calling on Trump to avoid trade wars, to continue to support Ukraine, and refrain from upsetting world order. Think about that. Of course they are. In other words, they're saying comply with the deep state. Even though the deep state may be pushed aside for now, comply with them and continue on the path that they were on. That's basically what they're saying. They said it is in our interests that the autocrats of this world receive a very clear signal that this is not the rule of force, but the rule of law. Now, this, of course, came from the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen regarding Ukraine. And I think we know we can't trust her. And then we have another statement from NATO. And NATO Secretary Mark Rutte, he called for Ukraine to be viewed as a problem, not only for Europe, but also he called for Russia's partnership with North Korea and said that is a threat not only to the European part of NATO, but also to the United States. And, Donald Trump, if you can recall, he made peace, remember, with Kim Jong-un? Do you remember that when Donald Trump, traveled over to the non-militarized zone over in North Korea and met with Kim Jong-un, which was completely unprecedented. That's something that just doesn't happen. I don't see that as being what other people see. I absolutely do think that Trump is going to create a world peace like nothing we've ever seen. And I think that that's why, of course, he refers to it as the golden age, because that's exactly what it's going to be. It is going to be the golden age. Sorry, I'm trying to fix my comments here, but I cannot. So I apologize for that. And so I think that the golden age is going to be something. You know what? Speaking of the golden age, I'm going to play a video for you here while we're talking about it. And then we'll talk about some other things. World Fair. Remember when we used to have world fairs? Trump's going to bring back the World Fair. In 3 years from now, on the anniversary of the United States, our 250th anniversary, he is going to bring back World's Fair. I'll let you hear his statement in your own words. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what his policies are going to be on day one.
3 years from now, the United States will celebrate the biggest and most important milestone in our country's history. 250 years of American independence. What a great country. And we have to keep it that way. But that's why, as a nation, we should be preparing for a most spectacular birthday party. We want to make it the best of all time. Here is my plan to give America's founding in 1776 the incredible anniversary it truly deserves. On day one, I will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250. It will be responsible for coordinating with state and local governments to ensure not just one day of celebration, but an entire year of festivities across the nation, starting on Memorial Day 2025 and continuing through July 4th, 2026. Second, I will work with all 50 governors, Republican and Democrat alike, to create the Great American State Fair, a unique one-year exhibition featuring pavilions from all 50 states. It'll be something. The Great American State Fair will showcase the glory of every state in the Union, promote pride in our history, and put forth innovative visions for America's future. My hope is that the amazing people of Iowa will work with my administration to open up the legendary Iowa State Fairgrounds to host the Great American State Fair and welcome millions and millions of visitors from around the world to the heartland of America for this special one-time festival. Together we will build it and they will come. Third, alongside the Great American State Fair, we will host major sporting contests for high school athletes. These are great athletes, wonderful athletes from fantastic high schools all around the country. These Patriot Games will allow young Americans from every state to show off the best of American skills, sportsmanship, and competitive spirit. Fourth, I will sign an executive order to bring back our National Garden of American Heroes, which we want to build very badly, commission artists for the first 100 statues to populate this new statuary park honoring the greatest Americans of all time. Fifth, as president, I will invite the leaders and citizens of nations around the world to visit the United States in honor of our 250th anniversary. It's going to be great. America's tourist industry should get ready because we're going to have a lot of people coming. It will be a record year. And finally, and most importantly, I will ask America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and our people as we prepare for this momentous occasion. From the very beginning, America has been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer and by our communities of faith. As we chart a course toward the next 250 years, let us come together and rededicate ourselves as one nation under God. Thank you.
Wasn't that a great speech? And this is not a new speech, by the way. And I'm gonna play another speech. A lot of people are passing around these speeches online as if they are new. These are not new. Both of these speeches I'm going to play are from last year. They were part of Donald Trump's campaign. So I don't want to deceive you and make you think that these are new statements. They are not. But Donald Trump is going to obviously honor any campaign promises that he made. So hopefully Iowa will be in agreement. And he's calling it the State's Fair, but it's very reminiscent of what used to be the World's Fair, which we know if you're here in the St. Louis area, right here at Forest Park, which is such a beautiful place and so many beautiful buildings. I wish I could have seen it during the World's Fair. You know, so many of those buildings they took down and deconstructed after the fair has ended. You know, so we've talked a lot about policies that Trump wants to institute, some of the things he's going to do on day one. And I'm going to play this other video. This has been circulating. Again, this is not a new video. This is from 2023, but it highlights some of the things that he said he is going to do in his first days in office, provided that he wins. Now we know he has one. So we're going to say, provided that the certification works out, which I think it will, provided the inauguration comes, which I think we will prevail. And we'll talk about that a little bit more later. But the cases, I believe, against Donald Trump are being dropped. So I don't expect there to be any sentencing or prosecution. And if there is, they're going to tie it up in court for so many years that he'll be able to serve out his term, and that won't make a difference. We'll have other obstacles, but some of the policies he wants to institute from day one, it's gonna give Democrats, I think, a lot to think about, and I think a lot of them aren't going to be very happy. I think it's going to fight them, make them fight us, not us the people, hopefully, but the government a little bit harder. But this is something that Donald Trump has stated. It is something I believe he will do. So let's listen to his statement here.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth. Under my leadership, this madness will end. Thank you very much.
And now again, this video was made as part of Trump's campaign. It was made in 2023. I'm not sure exactly when in 2023, but these are big talking points between, of course, Democrats and conservatives. And as I said yesterday, there's a lot of people who are, trans people, a lot of people in the LGBTQ community who are rushing out to these different clinics to make sure they change their name prior to Trump becoming president. They're signing up for their gender reassignment surgeries prior to him stepping into office because they're worried that they're not going to be able to do these things once he becomes president. And as I talked about yesterday, that's absolutely not true. Trump is going to change the rhetoric and as far as stopping promoting gender reassignment surgeries, and particularly for children, he is going to stop the promotion. He's not going to stop the surgeries from happening. And he has also stated that obviously, anything to do with children, that children are going to have to be of consenting age. That's something that has not been happening. There are a lot of areas that are performing these gender reassignment surgeries on teenagers, and on young people who are not mature enough yet to understand what they're necessarily doing to their body. And now that's me speaking. They'll tell you a different story that they are more mature, but we don't allow children to join the military. We don't allow them to do so many different things in this country, buy cigarettes, buy alcohol until they turn a certain age. And I think that should be the same when it comes to these types of elective surgeries, because some of these kids are prepubescent, already talking about these surgeries and taking puberty blockers when they're, I think we all know, we were all teenagers once, everything in your head is not completely worked out until you get older. Now I know there obviously are people who, like myself and probably most of you, you've always known you were heterosexual. It never occurred to you to be anything but heterosexual. So you always knew what you were. But there are also, of course, kids who know that they are gay or who feel like that they are in the body of the opposite sex, and they know it just the same that we knew it. I understand that, and I'm not discounting that at all. But we also know there's also a lot of kids who are just confused and mixed up because schools give them choices. Parents give them choices. They say, well, you can decide if you're going to be a male. You can decide if you're going to be a female. It's not designated at birth. I mean, think of our medical journals right now. Instead of referring to somebody as a male or a female, a woman or a man, now it's called designated at birth. Were you a female designated at birth? Were you a male designated at birth? And it is kind of silly, quite honestly. Yes, I understand that there are people in the LGBTQ community who have always known that they are in the wrong body, and it has nothing to do with any influence. I know, I understand. I knew somebody when I was really young in school who was exactly that. It was a boy who was a neighbor of mine who, from a very young age, identified as a female. And trust me, back then, there was no rhetoric. There was no one in the schools teaching this. There was no one surrounding this kid, talking to him about these things. It is how he felt inside. I know it happens. However, until you are old enough to consent, you should not be able to make these decisions. And I think that is something that Trump is absolutely going to implement in his first days in office, is more so about the children. And is he really going to designate where there's only male and female? I don't know. There's a good possibility. And I can understand the reasoning why, because it's very difficult right now. If you talk to people who run businesses, different government forms, when you have to list all of these different pronouns and different terminology for what people identify as, it's very confusing. Companies are having to rewrite programs. There's a lot of different things going on. When technically we are physiologically one or the other. And I don't have any problem with anyone and the choices they make. I am the same as I think most of us conservatives are. You be you, and I'm going to be me. You can do whatever you want to do as long as it doesn't harm me. But it does harm us when people are promoting these values to children. When kids go into college, or are these days, not even college, junior high, grade school, they're teaching kids that you have a choice. Just because you have the genitalia of a male or a female, you can still choose which sex you want to be. And we see this happening so often. And quite honestly, it's very disturbing to me personally. I think parents need to let their children decide as they grow up, as they're old enough to know how they identify. Don't put ideas in their head that they don't already have. We've all seen these videos and shows where we have parents who have little boys and they're letting their boy pick out a pink dress if that's what the little boy wants to wear. I'm sorry if it offends anyone. I don't agree with that at all. A 2-year-old should not have the option to pick out a pink dress if that's what they want to wear. And I wish I could see your comments, because I would love to know what you guys think, but I cannot see comments, so I apologize for that. I'm just going to have to ramble on and hope you guys don't get tired of hearing me talk. I think there's going to be a lot of things that Donald Trump does in his first days of office. And, provided we make it that far, I think we'll be successful. I think we will prevail, but we've got potentially a long road ahead of us. And I think the other thing, obviously, he's going to tackle will, of course, be illegals. I don't know how he's going to tackle this situation with illegals. I don't want, or I hope he doesn't just deport everyone. I don't think he's going to do that. There are people who are here who are leading productive lives, who have integrated into our society and are productive Americans. And I would hope that we can somehow fast track those folks into amnesty. Now, however, I do believe we need to somehow locate all of the folks that came to our country illegally and put them through the vetting process. We need to explain to them, hey, we're willing to work with you. If you like the United States, you're willing to be a productive American citizen, then we will find a way to fast track you through the system. But first, we're going to vet you. We want to know who you are. We want to know why you're here. And then, as part of the vetting process, if this person is not productive in our society, if they are for some reason not happy here, there's a lot of illegals that have came to our country who wish they had not, and they are not happy here and they want to go home, but they don't have any way to get home. They don't have the funds to go home. And while people will say, well, they walked here, they can walk back out, a lot of those people did not actually walk here. They were flown and dropped off near the border. They were bussed near the border and then formed a caravan and came over here. They didn't actually, many of them did not actually walk from Guatemala or El Salvador or even Mexico for that matter. And they want you to believe that. And some did, but the majority did not. So don't listen to that ridiculous propaganda. But we do have to find a way that's a common solution for everyone. We have millions of people here. And now that a lot of these different mayors, governors of different states, particularly, where there are sanctuary cities, they're starting to take notice that, hey, Donald Trump is going to be our president. He is going to step up. He's going to do something about the illegals. And Donald Trump made a call, we don't know what he said, to Eric Adams of New York the other day. And Eric Adams said that moving forward, illegals in the state of New York, they are not going to, or at least in New York City, they're not going to receive vouchers anymore for food. Now, to me, why they started with food, I don't know, because people do need to eat. They do need food. I don't think that people are going to say, okay, well, I'm heading back to Guatemala because New York's not going to give me food vouchers any longer. but it's going to cause a lot of people who are going to be in a very desperate situation, who are going to resort to desperate measures if they don't have food. But, at some point it has to stop. How does it stop? When does it stop? What's the plan? I don't know. But Eric Adams publicly stated he is no longer issuing food vouchers to illegals. It's going to happen. And I don't know how we're going to deal with that. Or are these people going to leave? Are they going to go to another city? How are other cities going to respond? We already talked about Massachusetts. Massachusetts mayor or governor, is absolutely not going to stop any illegals from doing anything. She's going to continue on with the programs they already have in defiance of Donald Trump. So I don't know how that's all going to play out. But I think we need to come up with really good immigration reform. And from what I understand, already just the announcement of Donald Trump winning this election, already illegal border crossings are going down. At the time that the election occurred, there was already a giant caravan of thousands of people heading towards the United States that were going to cross into our southern border. A good portion of those people turned around and they are no longer part of the caravan. I'm assuming because they think, well, if they get here, they're either going to be retained in Mexico or they're going to come in and immediately be deported. I don't know how it's all going to play out. I know Democrats are going to talk about the children. They're going to talk about the families. They're going to talk about the hardships. I've already seen Democrats comment about these people and their children being sent back, and their children are going to be killed when they go back to their originating country. I hope that's, of course, not the case. I think a lot of people came here because they were lured here by Democrats. Democrats are to blame. Democrat leaders, not the Democrats we know, not the ones in our community necessarily, but Democrat leaders lured these people here with the pretense that come to our country and we're going to provide you with all of these different things. But of course, we know that they just wanted them here for their votes. And then this election, when they couldn't get away with having the illegals vote, then guess what? They don't care anymore. Democrats are giving up, most of them. They don't care. If these people can't vote, if they're of no use to them, send them back. They don't care. I don't think too many of them are going to fight Donald Trump on these issues. And, I'm trying to think. There's some media. We talked about media earlier. Deanna mentioned media. I'm going to play a quick video here. I'm still trying to work on my technical issues and comments and some of the other things I see that are going on. I don't think I'm going to be able to fix it. I believe that social media has deemed that I'm talking about some things today that I shouldn't be talking about, and they have turned off some of the features of my show. So I apologize for that, because I would really like to know what you guys all have to say. But I'm going to play this video very quickly of Elon Musk, and he's going to talk about media and where we are and potentially where we're going.
In times past, we didn't have the technology for this, so the only way to learn news was for it to be filtered through a small number of news organizations and then to be printed in newspapers or broadcast. There wasn't really any way that people could speak to each other or communicate with each other, but now there is. So because people can be online, and I'm a big believer in sort of citizen journalism, and actually being way better. At first, citizen journalism may sound like, well, doesn't that mean just a whole bunch of amateurs are doing journalism? No, actually, it's way better, because if you have actual experts in the field saying things, that's way better than a journalist. If you have people who are actually at the event live. I mean, look at, say, the attempted assassination of President Trump, where people are actually at the event live, video, people are reporting it. That's the kind of thing that is actually far better information than filtering it through a small number of publications, which ends up being controlled by maybe 5 editors-in-chief. There's like 5 people that control all the news. And even though there are multiple newspapers, it's New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, a few others, and they decide what is newsworthy. But that should not be how it works. It should be the voice of the people, the cumulative voice of the people, should decide what is newsworthy.
What a great speech, right? What a great speech. I think Elon Musk is going to bring so much to the Trump administration. Outside of now, if he serves in the administration, obviously some of his businesses are going to be considered a conflict of interest. And I don't know how he's going to work out in separating himself to some degree from those businesses that has government contracts. I have no doubt he will figure it out. But I think he's going to be so instrumental in talking about media and how we move forward, because I think we all know, I know we have the freedom of speech. So we have to be very careful when it comes to media, because quite honestly, we have to support all freedom of speech, even if we don't agree. But what I do hope that Trump does, I hope that his administration is able to separate the government from the media. I think we know the deep state, the regime, the cabal, whatever you want to call them, they control the media. They have a line directly in to the newsroom, and they feed them what they want them to say. They will not allow them to say the things that are potentially against the government, things they don't want people to know. And I hope that that stops, because even with the Trump administration, I don't want the Trump administration controlling the newsroom. I want news to be free news. I want it to be accurate news. I want it to be facts. I want to know what's really going on in any situation. And then I want to be able to judge for myself what I think about that particular news story. I don't want the government attached. I don't want any state-run media. And I think most of you, if not all of you, probably agree. Whether that's the Trump administration, whether it's the deep state, separate the government from the news, separate the government from the social media platforms. And quite honestly, social media is something else. I'm not going to say it needs to be reformed, because even though right now there are certain platforms, I think you know who they are, who are messing with my show as I speak. They're obviously they've picked up on some kind of algorithm, and every show I have every day they mess with in some way. But you know what? That's my fault, because I continue to air my show on their platforms. They are business owners, and they're private organizations. They can do anything they want to do. If they don't want us to talk, then they don't have to allow us to talk. There's really nothing there that says they have to allow free speech. However, we have other platforms we can invest in. There are other platforms that do support free speech. And I certainly hope that we start taking advantage of those platforms. I know several people messaged me last night, and I hope I answered all of them back. I think I did, that said, you know what? I listened to your show. I'm going to create an X account, or I already have an X account. I'm going to start using it, because that's going to be where your freedom of speech now lies. I have a hard time believing that some of these other platforms are going to allow and continue to allow freedom of speech, despite the fact that Trump is in office. I think they'll fight him every step of the way. As a matter of fact, I've been censored more in these couple of days since the election than I was in the months prior. So I think we're going to see a lot going on. If you support your freedom of speech, then go to the platforms that support you. Please do that. Please create your account on X. Please follow me. I will follow you back. We've got to start doing our due diligence to protect our freedoms while we have them, because every step of the way, even with Trump in office, deep state's always going to be working. The cabal is always going to be working to take things back. And trust me, they'll always be just a step away from doing that. And I don't have a whole lot more to talk about today. One of the things that I really wanted to get into again was just what's going to happen between now and certification, now and election day. I've heard that Adam Dershowitz made a statement late yesterday, I believe it was, who said, let me read this, that he is going to, let's see here, that the cases against Trump are basically just going to go away, and that instead they're going to concentrate on prosecuting attorneys. So I fully expect the cases against Donald Trump to somehow dissipate. I don't know what's going to happen, how they're going to facilitate that, but according again to I can't even talk today, to Alan Dershowitz, those cases are going to go away. We'll see what happens and how it plays out. The sentencing, of course, is on November 26th. And let's just say that's one hurdle. The cases go away. That's one hurdle. They're all minor cases anyway. They're all very minor charges. And most of them, as we know, are just trumped up charges that mean absolutely not a darn thing. And if this were anyone else that had these charges, they wouldn't have even been a thing, because we all know Joe Biden had classified documents. Mike Pence had classified documents. A lot of people had classified documents. Nothing was done. There was Donald Trump, we know, did not cause an insurrection in Washington, D.C. We already know that. And they know that too. They're just trying to come up with things because they really thought they could intimidate him into not running. That's what those cases were about. They thought, okay, well, they started out, remember, we've talked about this so many times along the way. They started out threatening him with criminal cases, right? They thought, well, he'll back down. If we keep threatening to arrest him and throw him in prison, he's going to back down. He's going to go back into the shadows and hang out at Mar-a-Lago, and we're not going to hear from him anymore politically. Didn't intimidate him. Then they started talking about civil suits. Oh, we're going to sue him for $460 something million. We're going to bankrupt him. Didn't intimidate him. He continued. He continued on his path. And they just keep throwing things at him. And when those things didn't work, guess what? They tried to assassinate him. You know what? He keeps going. The man just keeps going. And he's fighting for us. And I think he's teaching Barron as well to fight for us in the future. We're going to see a lot more of Barron Trump. I can tell you that. I played that video for you guys earlier. If you didn't see it, go back and watch it. Barron Trump is going to be a leader someday, no doubt in my mind. But something else I want to show you guys, talking about Trump and talking about Trump's safety, is that he has, and this is pretty wild. So Trump has robot dogs patrolling the perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. Look at this. A robot dog in action. And this robot dog does have the ability to shoot, by the way. It is fully armed. And I think that's so interesting. And what a great thing to have. We've all seen the videos and we've talked about these armed robot dogs in the past. And to see one there at Mar-a-Lago is really fantastic. I hope he has a whole bunch of them and not just this one, because we know the security at Mar-a-Lago has quite honestly not been the best. They have had a lot of incidents where Chinese nationals have somehow made their way into Mar-a-Lago and were just wandering around and taking photos and possibly leaving listening devices and other things that took place in the past. So the robot dogs are, in my opinion, are a great idea. I hope again that Trump, Elon Musk, JD Vance, I hope RFK Jr., I hope they are all taking extra special precaution. Everybody's head needs to be on a swivel, including yours. As I end out the show, I want to make sure again, and I'm going to apologize that I can't see any comments, and my screen, I can't see myself either. So things are a little off right now with the screen. Things keep blipping on and off because they're probably trying to figure out how to delete it. It's going to be, the show is going to be restricted, of course, as always. That happens pretty much every day to some degree. But that's the world we live in right now. But I want to make sure you guys are aware. Please be extra vigilant in the coming days. And things are going to play out. We're going to see things change from good to worse to continuing worse to bad. And these people they're not going to give up. The deep state's not going to just hand over their reign of power. It's not going to be that easy. And there's different things that could happen. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a war. It could be a war. If you think about it, somebody mentioned this to me yesterday, and they're absolutely correct. And that is, if a war would break out right now, if a war breaks out, then Democrats will hold on to power, because in a state of war, Biden will stay in power. And if Biden drops out, then guess what? Because he's unfit, because he's not cognitively able to do his job, and Harris steps up, she could be our president either way. So don't think that these things can't happen. I hope they don't happen. If I had to predict, I would think that what will happen is there will be a peaceful transition of power. Trump will be certified. He will be inaugurated. And then, the fight kind of begins in that there's different judicial areas where they try to just not follow his policies. So we'll see. That's my thoughts. Of course, I'm thinking of the best case scenario there. I think we all know that there's a possibility a lot of other things can happen. I can assure you there are plans being made right now to attack Americans. And we'll talk about that more next week. We'll have, hopefully, Colonel Joe Adams will be able to join us on Wednesday. We'll get into some of the things that are taking place. Hopefully, we won't see a lot happen between now and then, but please keep your guard up. It doesn't matter if you're driving down the road, if you're walking, if you're out jogging, if you're in your front yard, please be vigilant. keep aware, always know your surroundings, because you don't know. I'll tell you right now, and I don't even want to scare people, but there are people out there, nefarious people, who have lists of Trump supporters, not yet from this election, but from prior elections. They know where you live, they know who you are. And I hope that they wouldn't take it upon themselves to actually go out and cause any havoc, chaos, etc. But don't think it can't happen. So please, I'm not saying be scared. There's nothing to be fearful about. The possibilities of this happening are extremely remote, but it is some of the chatter that I hear and some of the things that people talk about. So just please be aware. We don't want to be in a situation where we're unsafe, but we also don't want to be in a situation where we're paranoid and we're not living our lives. We just have to keep an eye on what's taking place. If you don't have a Telegram or an X account, those are the places to go. Over the weekend, of course, anything I see, anything I hear, I'm going to be posting it to my Facebook page. I'm going to be posting it to X. I'll be in Telegram. I share so many things in Telegram that I can't share anywhere else. So anything I see, I'll be sharing there specifically. And I'm going to be keeping my eye out. I have to work this weekend. The St. Louis Film Festival is in full effect. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time, being that I work in anti-piracy at the St. Louis Film Festival. I will be working all weekend, in fact. So if you guys make it out to the film festival, please stop in and say hello. If you see me, just don't have your phone on because I will get you if you do. But either way, I hope you guys all have a fantastic weekend. I hate it that I can't not wish you all a great weekend individually, but I can't see anything and I can't see your comments. But hopefully we'll figure that out. I'm going to work this weekend to get the show on Rumble and Spotify and some other different places where we have to worry a little bit less about algorithms and monitoring and all of the little dirty tricks people play. So we'll be keeping an eye on things. But I do hope all of you guys have a great weekend. I hope you have a fantastic Friday, and be vigilant. Please keep an eye out for your surroundings and pay attention to what's going on, and start thinking, start planning ahead for the golden age, the next 4 years. So many amazing, wonderful, fantastic things are going to happen. Our lives are all going to be so much better for it, even the people who don't like Trump. So we have so much to look forward to. It might be a little bit crazy before then, but it will all be worth it. We will prevail in the end. Have a good weekend, everyone. I will look forward to seeing